As seasons and sundowns passed by unaware, cartoons were abandoned with nary a care. These friends found new interests with bell-bottoms of flair. On the phone for 3 hours, no kidding, I swear. Mascara, the Beatles, and stereos a-blare. Those days formed a bond, no need for fanfare, just two silly girls with a pact and a prayer. No matter what happens, we would always be there. Soon the winds took a turn for these girls, and they knew they'd be going to new places, but their hearts remained true. There'd be times again later to recap and renew. And though their lives were now varied, having moved from the nest, did I mention the one bond that endured all the test? It was a common deep faith that God knew them the best. Through the minutes, the marriages, misfortunes, and miles, notes and letters would travel and welcome a smile. Sometimes the two friends would meet a short while, sharing tea and belly laughs from old video files. Soon the fair lass with red hair and a cute dimpled chin was promoting and touring as if on a whim. Drawn to her life song without and within, it was a melody she would follow from beginning to end. At times, her old friend would remember their history as her Irish friend traveled to places of mystery, setting off on new courses with whereabouts unknown. She was like a frontiersman out there on her own, and she embraced all the wonders and the freedoms to roam. But the day came to settle as time took its course, and her song came full circle and returned to its source. Home called her, doors opened, no need for remorse. For love's tide and its surf gripped her heart with a force. Then the time of the sparrows brought a new call to bear, a last chapter approaching with no time to spare. The girls rallied together, their mission was clear, traveling this time as one in the garden of prayer. The red-headed friend took her comfort at last. She treasured her present, her travels now past. For over her shoulder the grass had grown taller, soon the winds and the rain would begin their refrain, and summer's goodbye would bring crisp autumn skies. She then heard a small voice calling over the glen. It's a whisper familiar time and time again, ever present and purposed in a world without end. And the old friend would remain, for it was her time to cry, as God took hold of his brush and in the wink of an eye swept rare colors of brilliance across her canvas of life, luminescent and gleaming throughout the night sky. For now she'd let go of that girl with the grin, holding their song in her heart and remembering when, as she knew that their paths would unite once again. So she opened her mouth, one last message to send. Farewell, my adventurer, my wanderer, my sojourner, my friend. I have a picture of us if you guys want to see it. I'll put it out there.
Thank you.
It's when we were in the 4th grade together. And then when we were older and we looked better.
Other stories?
My name is Michael Reff, and we were friends at Everybody's Records. It was kind of an era where we were all growing into adulthood together. And Debbie came to us, I think, around 75. And, you know, the things that you talk about, calamitous and all this, I mean, we could probably come up with stories all night long about the... Debbie was an open soul who was not discerning at all in her friendships. And she had good and bad friends, and somehow, you know, it ended up working out. There was people that we all know that weren't probably the ones that she should hang out with, but everybody was better after having been with Debbie. I'll just mention one thing. So as time went on, we would talk maybe once a year or something like this, and she'd come back into town for the Christmas party. And so generally she would come over to the house and have dinner. And so one of the last times this happened, a couple of years ago, and she came over, and this was we can all remember this about Debbie. She came over, we had dinner, and my kids were there, and Linda was there, and then you were talking and drinking some wine, and gradually my kids take off, and finally it's, you know, we started around 7:30, and by this time it's 11, and Linda takes off, and Debbie's going on and on with the stories, and then it's, you know, 1 o'clock, and then it's 2 o'clock, and her mouth is still going, story after story after story, and, you know, finally I go, Deb, I gotta get up at 6. So we gave each other a big hug, and, you know, that was the last time she was at our house, so great gal.
I'm Tom Keenan, also from Everybody's. And if I'm not mistaken, Deb was our first secretary.
Yes.
And she grew with us. We had 2 stores at the time, and eventually wound up with 10. And Deb moved with us as we grew. She went from secretary to advertising, to editing the newsletter that we put out every week, doing the charts. She loved most of all was experiencing new music and the artists. I mean, that was her lifeblood. She loved that more than anything. And when she went to Cafe Music Network and created that, she and Jane kind of had an understanding. Jane took care of the business, and she would work the artists. And she loved writing reviews. And the thing that I remember, so many stories, but as I was looking through pictures, I never found a picture of Debbie where she wasn't smiling. I mean, that's one thing. She had an infectious laugh. Matter of fact, there were times that she couldn't stop laughing, and it just got us all laughing many, many times. And we had this golf tournament that we ran for about 20 years, and it was sort of a golf tournament that you really wouldn't invite a lot of people to if they weren't part of the music business. And but Debbie said, you know, my dad really wants to play. And of course, her dad at that time was about 40 years older than the rest of us. And we weren't sure, but Harry had the best time playing in that. And we called it the Poke and Hope. And he had the best time playing in that. And Deb was so thrilled and proud that she'd brought the Irish tradition to the Poke and Hope.
I'm Harry, and I'm Deb's brother. I want to get some business over with before we go on. After the service is over with, there is a reception at my house, and we live out in Gresham. There is a Google directions as you leave if you are interested and don't know how to get to our house. I encourage you to come. We have a small house, but we'll make it work. So I hope you will come and join us so we can continue to talk about Deb.
Yeah, talk
Say-
about anything.
Till 2 in the morning, yep. Not, and then tomorrow morning at Douglas Pioneer Cemetery at 9 a.m. we are having a very short service, a burial. And it's going to be very casual. If you can come, great. If you have a computer, you Google Douglas Pioneer Cemetery, you can get it. If you don't know how to get it, come to my house, because we have a map to my house. And we're leaving about 8:45 to go there, and so you can follow us. It's very close, not far away at all.